Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we dig in deep to analyze the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. I'm Andy Nelson from The Next Reel.
And I'm Pete Wright, also from The Next Reel.
We are back at the end of the week talking about Jon Favreau's 2008 film Iron Man, and we are looking at minute 30. Once again, closing out the week with us, we have Eric Nash from the Watchmen Minute Podcast. Hey, Eric.
Hey guys, it's been great being here all week. Been some good Iron Man minutes that aren't quite irony yet.
Not quite irony.
Oh God, I can't wait.
You know, I will say, now that you threw that in there, I have to say, in that deleted scene, they really messed up by not having Tony ironing Abu's clothes. Oh, they really missed that.
It's such a miss out. Take that right to the bank.
The Iron Man.
Oh my goodness.
Literally. Come on, guys. Oh, but yes, today, on today's show, minute 30, the minute starts with Raza finally speaking. We finally get to hear Raza speak. And the minute ends with Raza letting Tony know that soon it'll be his turn. Very threatening minute from Raza. Although he's a wonderful storyteller, I will say. I give him that. He spins quite the yarn as he gets to his point. I don't even know if we fully get to his point.
You'll stand for the tail.
Faran Tahir. He was born in L.A. While his parents were studying over in L.A., directing at UCLA in their theater department, and then they moved back to Pakistan. He's from a theater family, well known in Pakistan and India. His parents are actors, directors, and writers. And he moved back to L.A. in 1980 when he was 17, got his bachelor's from UC Berkeley, and graduate degree from the Institute for Advanced Theater Training at Harvard. He has been a very busy boy, as we mentioned last week, with quite the career. His nickname, according to IMDb, is The Danger.
Yes, that checks out.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. I was wondering when we were going to get there. We're there. He became a warlord in Hollywood.
Right.
It must be a curse to just be naturally so sinister. You know what I mean? This is my problem. I've never seen him in anything where he's not sinister. Even as a Starfleet captain in Star Trek, he looked sinister on the bridge of that ship.
I would say he looked intense. I don't know. I don't know if I'd say he looked intense.
Potato.
Were you on the minute when JJ was talking about him, Pete?
No.
So JJ worked with him on American Crime and actually flew with him on a plane to the shooting location.
Do you hear that? He's even in a show called American Crime.
Got to chat with him. He says he's a wonderful guy. So he may look sinister, but he is a wonderful guy.
Yeah, they always are. I also saw American Psycho. Look how that turned out.
This is a great story that he weaves. Kind of the weapons, the story of Genghis Khan ruling in the 13th century and how he ruled with the bows and arrows and checking out some of the statistics and the information that he throws out. Genghis Khan ruled back in the 13th century, the Mongolian Empire. It was the largest contiguous empire that the world has ever known. Genghis became the ruler in 1206 and ruled until his death in 1227. I believe the maximum land area, that it continued growing after he died. It was either 1270 or 1309, according to what I read. But it originated on the steppes of Central Asia. The Mongol Empire eventually stretched from Eastern Europe and parts of Central Europe to the Sea of Japan, going north into Siberia, eastwards and southwards into the Indian subcontinent, Indochina, and the Iranian plateau, and westwards as far as the Levant and Carpathian Mountains. It was the largest contiguous empire, as I said, roughly 24 million kilometers or 9.27 million miles, which is about 16.1% of the Earth. So that's a hefty chunk of property.
That's right. We call that a good start.
Right. Interestingly, when you're looking at empires, the British Empire actually did beat this out eventually, but theirs wasn't contiguous. Theirs was kind of spread out quite a bit. Now, he does throw out a few bits of information. He says it was twice the size of Alexander the Great. That does not check out. Alexander the Great ruled the Persian or I'm going to butcher this, Achaemenid Empire. His empire was 2.12 million square miles, or 5.5 million kilometers. So it actually is more like 4.3 times the size of what Alexander the Great ruled. If they did want somebody to actually say, when he says twice the size of Alexander the Great, he should have said twice the size of Napoleon, because the Second French colonial empire was much closer, or twice the size of Kublai Khan, because the Yuan dynasty was also about that size.
Look at all that history just buried into and then completely ravaged by Iron Man.
Right.
I mean, when they watch this movie in history class, what are they going to get?
I tell you, kids these days.
The true story.
He does also say it's 4 times the size of the Roman Empire. Again, if he was doing 4 times the size, he should have stuck with Alexander the Great in this particular case, because the Roman Empire was actually 5 million kilometers, or 1.93 million miles. So it was closer to almost 5 times the size of the Roman Empire. But, I don't know, maybe the textbooks that Raza was working with didn't have all the accurate information.
He had some fake textbooks?
He did. They were fake books.
And it's not scripted, but there's a nice moment as Raza walks in. He walks up to Tony and he kind of looks, he pulls his shirt open a little bit and looks at the device in his chest and kind of checking out some of the stuff going on. I thought that was a nice little beat that they actually added.
It's weird. It's seductive. Like, he runs his finger around the device while he's talking, and it's I don't know. Creepy.
It's very intrusive. I found it very
invasive.
Yeah. Not quite rapey, but it's a little bit like you don't want him doing that.
Well, to me, it's almost pointing the way towards what's to come. I think, because don't various people essentially coming up want what Tony has, but it's a part of him, right?
Right.
So I think that's what he's looking at it wantingly.
Well, I think almost there's a little bit more of that curiosity, because he clearly doesn't understand what this thing is that's in his chest. But you're right, it does build to much more greedy desires for that power to come later in the film. So it's an interesting idea that they've kind of built here. I like that. The scripting of the scene is actually pretty close as far as his speech. Everything that he's saying pretty much fits. That I think works pretty well. One thing that's not scripted as he's going through his speech, you've got some nice little moments that Favreau builds in between Tony and Yinsen as they're kind of interacting and looking at each other. And I like those little subtle action beats that they have, and how Yinsen, like Tony looks to him like, is there something I should say or do? And Yinsen kind of gives him that, that little hand gesture. It's like, stay calm. It's a nice little beat between these two guys that I think works nicely while we're listening to Raza espouse all of these incorrect facts about history.
And then he goes over to the table and he picks up, I mean, you know where I'm going. He picks up the paper. And he stares at the stacks of paper, and the paper they're stacked on top of each other, just as we're revealed. And then we have to question now the competence of Raza, because the first thing you want to hear out of his mouth is, "Wait, this is so a leg. Are you trolling right now? This is a leg. This is not a missile. That's what you want." This is a terrible idea, 1 minute at a time. Terrible. Don't give me time to think.
He should be asking, do you have a light table? Where's your light table?
Where's my light table? Because there's something suspicious about this.
You almost want them to have drawn a few paper sketches and schematics of missiles that they could actually layer in there, just to kind of throw them off. Like, oh, this one clearly is a Jericho missile blueprint.
Right.
When again, with the missile that I pointed out earlier in a previous minute, seconds like 20 almost to 25, or no, even longer, Raza walks over to actually 2. There's 2, I think, side by side. When you first start that about second 20, you can see the 2 noses of them on the left. But he walks over and you can see that it's those same parts. They're open,
right.
And
yep,
the same parts we can see from that other view where I saw them.
That's right.
They're here.
That look like flamethrowers.
So clearly they're faking it. I think that's exactly what it is. These are the Voltron parts that, right. He's going to snap off the nose pieces to those missiles, and those will become his arms. It's so funny. But I can see it working. I have one little audio note, it's an odd little note here. But the sound design here, you got the footsteps as Raza is walking through the room and talking, and as he passes Tony and goes over to the light table, you hear his footsteps. But for some reason, the very last footstep that he has as he's approaching the table, it never actually sounds like it sounds like they added the footstep sound there, but it doesn't look like there's a footstep in his body motion. The camera's kind of tilting down his body as he's reaching for those schematics, but I don't feel like there's a footstep. And that last sound of the footstep always throws me because I shouldn't say always. The more I watch this minute, it throws me more and more, but it never threw me before. But it sounds like there's one extra footstep that they shouldn't have had in there.
Wait, this is Raza walking up to the table?
Yeah, as he walks up to the table, there's one last footstep sound at about 37 seconds in as it kind of cuts. And I just feel like there's not an actual step there. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. No, the last footstep, I guess, it's actually closer to 38, 39 as we're tilting down his body to the pages.
Okay.
You hear it?
Walking.
Yeah,
yes, there is. It's like he digs his foot into the ground real hard.
Right.
It's like sometimes I've seen like kind of more like military type people, if they're walking along and then they do a final, like almost of a jump, when they get to their spot.
The little hop, the military hop.
Yeah, right.
Just to really make sure, their feet are lined up and they're in full form.
Right.
Maybe that's what he's doing.
The person I picture doing that is John Cleese.
Oh, because it's a silly one.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what we can't see because it's too tight,
right.
Is that he's actually high-stepping. Raza is high-stepping the whole thing.
Oh, everything that we think of is just making these guys sillier and sillier. That's great. The peanut butter, the washing machine,
right.
and now with the high-stepping.
That's right.
Favreau was smart in making sure they didn't include all of these moments. But they left that footstep in. I don't think I have anything else for this minute. You guys have anything else?
I'm good.
I think I'm done for the week.
All right. Well, I don't think we have anything else for this minute. So, Eric, with our guests, we like to talk to them a little bit about their history with Marvel and some film rankings. How did you end up falling into Marvel and all of these stories? Were you reading comics as a youth? Did you read Iron Man, or did you kind of fall into this much later in life?
More so later. I mean, I definitely was reading comics, like roughly 12 through 16-ish, but mostly DC.
Oh, okay.
There's a little dabbling of Marvel then, maybe just a little bit. Mostly more likely Spider-Man. And then again, Spider-Man, after Dark Knight came out is when I really got back into comics more heavily. I'd just been starting to dabble like with Watchmen a few years prior to that, Watchmen and Crisis on Infinite Earths. But, and after getting back more heavily into actually, going to a comic book shop and having a pull list, I again dabbled some, Deadpool 2 also, but no, really, I don't know if I've ever really read a good Marvel comic. I'm sorry, Iron Man comic. A good Iron Man comic.
Oh, crap.
I've read some. I loved, because I love his Kingdom Come. I loved Marvel's. Alex Ross.
Yeah, right,
on art for those two.
What about the MCU? Did you jump in right away, or did you kind of come to it once it had already begun?
No, yeah, I mean, it's possible. This very first one, Iron Man, I might have not seen it until a week or two after it first hit theaters, but after that, I was into it. I've seen almost all of them, pretty much either the night of or the very first weekend.
Gotcha.
And been really excited to catch everyone, even though, like I said, there's been a couple that aren't wonderful.
Well, so those are the things I want to know. Like, which ones didn't you see in the theater, and which ones didn't you like?
No, I've seen them all.
You've seen them all in the theater. Okay.
Some
even Incredible Hulk.
There's a line, man.
I missed that one because I wasn't.
I think I caught that. I think I caught the Incredible Hulk. I still haven't seen all of Hulk though.
Oh, the Ang Lee
Only
one,
seen
huh?
a few minutes here or there. So at some point, I would like to. Yeah.
It's a good one. We're not talking about it on this show. Maybe it'll be a hiatus episode or something. But it's
yeah, sure.
It's a very interesting other journey into the story of Hulk.
But no, yeah, because Incredible Hulk was what, like roughly a year after this one?
No, it was months.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
months.
if that.
A couple months later. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I like this so much that I did go ahead and see that in the theater. Yeah, I'm positive, and seen them all. But some 2 or 3 times, but others like The Dark World.
So that's the next question. There's 20 of them. So we're not asking our guests to rank all of them because there's an awful lot of films. But what are your favorites? Like, how would you rank like your top 5?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's. I still want to see it at least a couple more times, and soon too. The most recent one, Infinity War. Civil War. I mean, I think some people kind of went away from that a little bit. I mean, I think it was pretty popular right off the bat, but I enjoyed that a lot too. It's the bang for your buck mentality.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha.
Of having a ton of heroes on screen is really cool, really awesome.
Well, it's one of those things.
Gotcha. So the Avengers.
It's really
films,
funny.
yeah.
Like when you get into the Avengers films and Civil War and Infinity War, like it feels to me very much like it's tapping into me as a 10-year-old. You know, like because that's how I played with action figures. That's how I read comics. That's how I experienced it. They were all hanging out together, you know?
Yeah.
So, this is these big movies, they're feeling much more attuned, weirdly, to my youth.
So, yeah, and then the first Avengers is in that top 5, that's for sure. And I really want to see Ragnarok again. I think I've seen it twice in theaters, and I really haven't gotten back to it. I think I started watching it, but I had to go do something else, unfortunately, or something popped up.
That's a crazy little one. I just rewatched that one with the family, with my wife and kids who hadn't seen that one yet. So it was fun to watch it with them, seeing them watch it for the first time.
And then the two that really tied in finally back for Infinity War are the 2 Guardians.
Right.
Those have to be right there, up there at the top 2. Because then actually those are the only 2 that I've actually bought digitally. I don't have any physical copies of any of these, but I catch bits and pieces when they're on TV, on regular TV or whatever. But also, I borrow plenty of DVDs and Blu-rays from the library.
Well, it is fun to see them evolving it, and it is nice how they all feel, as one. It's a nice big family with all of these movies.
Yeah, the Thor Rocket Raccoon stuff.
Yeah, it's too good.
Yeah, that was great.
Chris Pratt.
Good stuff. Well, Eric, thank you again so much for coming and joining us this week. We had a blast talking with you about Iron Man. Where can people find out more about you and the shows that you work on?
Yeah, I'll just highlight the shows, Watchmen Minute, just Google that, or if you really need to, realpodcastnetwork.com/Watchmen Minute. And then coming up later this year will be Almost Famous Minute.
Can't wait.
Perfect.
Everyone enjoys.
That's going to be exciting. Well, Pete, thanks again for closing out the week with me.
It's been a good one. Maybe we can actually see Iron Man next time.
Maybe, well we got to get out of the cave first. We're still stuck in the cave. Oh, well, thanks everybody for tuning in to this week's show. Make sure you subscribe to the show for free at marvelmovieminute.com. Join us over in our Discord chat room and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Next Reel. And if you like what we do and you want to support us and get some cool stuff, become a patron over at patreon.com/The Next Reel. Thanks everybody for tuning in this week. Until next time, true believers.